Hello artist! Today we are going to be starting our analogous color background for our Lunar New Year banners. So first we're going to be using watercolor paper. It's a little thicker than regular paper, and that's so that when we get it wet, it doesn't rip. Next we're going to be using a watercolor palette. And we need a cup of water for that, of course. And then I'm using a bigger paintbrush today, not a really tiny one, because we're just going to be covering this whole paper with color. So I don't want a really tiny brush because it would take me a very long time. So now I am going to be choosing my analogous color scheme. I'm going to pick 3 colors to wake up. So I'm going to choose purple, and I'm going to put a puddle of water in my purple, blue, puddle of water in my blue, and green, puddle of water in my green. Now remember, black and brown don't count because they are neutral colors. So if you are looking at this as a color wheel, purple starts over again at red. But today I am using purple, blue, and green. So now I am just going to take my brush and I'm going to go to one side of my paper. I'm going to work from left to right so I don't smear anything. And I'm going to start by just wetting part of my paper. And then I'm going to dip into my color, wake it up by tickling it a little bit. And you always make sure there's a puddle of water in there or else you're ruining the paint. And then once you have some of the color on your brush, you're just going to dip it in the wet part of your paper. Now this dot didn't do anything, and that's because it's on a dry spot of paper. That's okay. It's just not going to explode if it's on a dry spot. We're going to keep going and keep filling our paper, and once we like the way the one section looks, we can just add more water to another section and keep going with the fireworks by dripping little bits into the wet sections and watching as they all mix. This technique is called wet in wet because we are taking wet paint and we are putting it on a wet piece of paper to get the effect. Sometimes you will need to put more water into your watercolor paint to make sure that you're not digging in to the paint itself. If while you're painting your paper, the edges get a little too wet or you see that there's a really big puddle happening, you're just going to take a sponge. I'll leave sponges at your table, and you gotta soak it up. We don't want to put the sponge over the whole paper because it will take away the color a little bit. But if we need that puddle to not drip all over, we're going to take our sponge and just go into the parts. Like this is a very big puddle right here. I'm going to take my sponge. I'm just going to dab it up so that when I walk this to the drying rack, I don't get any on the floor. All right, and when I carry this, I want to carry it with 2 hands on either side like a lunch tray and carry it really flat. If I tilt it up or down or hold it against my body, I will get paint somewhere. So please hold it with 2 hands and walk it very slowly to the drying rack. All right, boys and girls, I hope you had fun. Bye.